Hi, I'm Karen Alari. Welcome to the Beginner's Corner. Today we're going to be talking about color, and we're going to be getting to know our colors better. One of the very first things you need to learn is how each color interacts with the other colors on your palette. So we're going to be creating these cards today. We're going to create one card for each of our tube colors, and we'll have those to refer back to, and in the process of creating them, you're going to learn to understand each one of your colors and what it's going to do in your painting. So you'll just be able to mix your colors with ease. It takes a little time to do these, but they're well worth it, and you're going to be a better painter and well on your way once you get these all done. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so here's the paint colors that we're using, the names of the colors, and they're listed on each tube. These are golden acrylic paints, and the little swatches tell you how transparent the paint is. You can see this cad yellow is less transparent than that Nicolazo gold was. This is what we're going to be making today. It's a color card. This one is based on quinacridone gold as the base color, and across the top I've done squares of each of my other tube colors that I use on my palette. Then I'll mix the two, the gold with the blue and the gold with the phthalo blue, and fill in that square, add a little bit of white going down the page so you can see how they turn out with white. I'm just taking a piece of watercolor paper and cutting it in half, so I have just this little rectangle of watercolor paper. I'm marking off 1-inch squares, both horizontally and vertically, starting a ½ inch away from the edge, but as long as you have the 8 squares across, that's all you need to figure out there. And then once I put them all in, I'll go horizontally and mark off so that I have 5 squares going down the page. And that just sets it up so we can fill in each one of our squares. I'm going to do this card with, this is going to be the Ultramarine Blue card, so that's what I'm going to mix all the other colors with, is this Ultramarine Blue that I'm putting. This is just the lid of one of my sealable palettes. You need something that you can wipe off, because what's really important is not to mix the colors. After each square you fill in, each time you get paint on the brush, you're going to need to wipe your brush off, rinse it off real well, wipe it off real well, because if you mix the colors, obviously you're not gonna know, you're not gonna get a pure color mix there. So I'm starting with my phthalo blue, and I've got 1 square of phthalo and 1 of ultramarine. Now I'm gonna mix those two colors together, rinsing off in between to make sure that it stays nice and clean. So there's the ultramarine blue, and mixing it with the phthalo blue, and now I'm going to fill that square in. You're trying to just mix equal parts of each paint, so equal parts of ultramarine and phthalo, and then add a little bit of white, and you're going to add a little more white going down the page, and you're just going to start getting a feel for what happens when you add white to these colors. White actually makes your color go a little cooler, as well as making it lighter. That's a term that we'll be using a lot: warmer or cooler colors. The warmer colors are leaning towards the reds and the yellows, and the cooler colors lean more towards blue. And so now I am mixing. You also want to, underneath the ultramarine blue, which is what this base card is, you want to just take straight ultramarine blue, add white in it, and fill in your squares down the page there, so you can see what the straight tube color looks like just with white added. And we're going to go across the top, and the next color we're going to mix our ultramarine blue with is our quinacridone magenta. And this is a nice transparent bright magenta color. It mixes well with a lot of other colors. The color stays very clear and pure. You'll see when we mix it with this ultramarine, you're going to get a nice purple color. And it's dark too at this point. And it's a nice pretty purple that you could use for a lot of things, shadows and flowers, and obviously all these colors you'll end up mixing with other colors, but we have to start somewhere to understand where they're going to go. Ultramarine blue itself is a more opaque color, meaning it's less see-through. All of our paints tend to be more transparent or more opaque. And again, that you can see that when you look at the tubes. There's little black marks on the tubes, and then they put a smear of paint across it so you can tell how clear that color is or how opaque it is. And the clear colors mix better together. As you go along doing this, you want to be sure and clean your palette off. If you need more room, you don't want to be mixing on top of where you've mixed some other colors, or you're just going to mix them up. So this is our alizarin crimson, which is also a very transparent color, and we're mixing it with the ultramarine blue half and half to see what that's going to turn out like. And this is a darker color than the one that we just did, the magenta we just did, and it's not quite as transparent as that magenta. So you're going to get a darker color. This combination makes some nice pretty darks that we use a lot in the landscape. And I'm just going to go down and add the whites. And you can see as I add the white, this purple that the alizarin crimson makes is more gray than the one with the magenta color that we used. So that's the kind of things that you're going to learn, and you're going to know which colors to go to. This one is a cadmium red medium. The colors, all these colors we're using are my standard palette that I've developed as time goes on. We basically have a warm and a cool shade of each of the primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. And then I've also added quinacridone magenta and quinacridone gold, because they're just really good colors to mix with, and very clear transparent colors with a lot of pigment to them. Now cadmium red is a very opaque color. You can see that by the square there. And when it mixes with ultramarine, which is also a fairly opaque color, look how gray those purple colors look. A wonderful color to use in shadows and in parts of your landscape. The next color we're doing is our cadmium yellow medium. It's a cadmium color, and all the cadmium colors are very opaque and almost very earthy in tone. You just have to be careful with them because they muddy up very quickly when they're mixed with other colors. So you want to just be aware of that. You might not want to use a cadmium color if you're trying to mix a clear, pure color. You can see the green that it makes is a nice landscape green, but it's pretty grayed down. It's not a bright green color. You'll see when you do your phthalo blue card that the phthalo blue makes some much brighter greens than the ultramarine blue does. Now we're mixing the ultramarine with Hansa Yellow Light, which is our cool yellow. And you can see that real clearly in the squares, how the cadmium yellow is warmer and the Hansa Yellow is cooler. So the green it makes is going to be more cool. Hansa Yellow is also a very transparent yellow, so the blue is coming through more strongly, and the green that it makes is bluer in tone than the one that you make with the cadmium. And our last color that we're putting on this color card is our quinacridone azo gold. Again, a very transparent color, and when mixed with the ultramarine, it makes a great dark color. But when you mix it out, you see how it's also a very gray color when it mixes down. Great mixing colors. So there's our card. This is the ultramarine blue card, so I'm labeling it that way so I don't forget later. And I'm labeling my tube colors: phthalo blue, quin magenta, alizarin crimson, cadmium red medium, cadmium yellow medium, Hansa Yellow Light, and quinacridone gold. And you're going to go through and make one of these cards for each of your tube colors, putting all the other tube colors along the top and mixing them just like we did at these. And they do take a little time. Here's my quinacridone gold card I made earlier. And once you have them done, you can compare. You're going to have some that are the same. The ultramarine blue and quin gold lines are going to be the same on both cards. But when you're looking for the right green or the right purple, you have them right there to refer to. So that's it, your first step on the way to becoming a better painter. And I hope you enjoyed it. Happy painting.